What happens when a father's desperate plan to save his wayward son involves a complete stranger? And can love grow from an arrangement born out of shame and necessity?
Like and subscribe.
The night Uche staggered into Chief Ufomba's compound, reeking of alcohol and blood from a bar fight, his father sat waiting. Chief's face was stone cold, but his heart burned with anguish. This was the third time in as many months that Uche's recklessness had made headlines. "I didn't raise you for this," Chief said quietly as Uche slumped into a chair. "But if you keep living like this, I'll have no son left to speak of." Uche smirked, wiping his blooded lip. "I'm still here, aren't I?" Chief stared at his son, anger and sadness warring within him. Something had to change. He had tried lectures, grounding him, and even cutting him off financially. None of it had worked. Now, Chief was ready for his last gamble, a gamble that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with the heart. Chief Ufomba had met Mercy during a routine visit to one of his properties, intending to check on repairs he'd recently ordered. As his car pulled into the compound, he noticed a young woman hunched over, scrubbing the front steps of a modest house. She carried a bucket of water that seemed far too heavy for her slender frame, yet she worked with quiet determination. When she saw him, she quickly set the bucket down, wiped her wet hands on her faded wrapper, and greeted him with a warm smile. "Good afternoon, sir," she said softly, bowing slightly in respect. Her hands caught Chief's attention. They were rough and calloused, a clear sign of years of hard labor. Intrigued, he asked her about her situation. "I'm an orphan," she said with a calm humility that belied the hardship of her words. "I do odd jobs to get by. The neighbors are kind, and I try to repay them however I can." Chief Ufomba was struck by her sincerity, but what stayed with him most was her next statement. "I don't have much, but I believe kindness costs nothing." Later that day, the elderly tenant whom Mercy had been helping invited Chief to stay for lunch. To Chief's surprise, it was Mercy who prepared the meal, a simple yet perfectly balanced dish tailored to the tenant's dietary needs. She apologized for its simplicity, but Chief found it thoughtful and wholesome. Before Chief left, Mercy handed him a small container. "Please take this," she said earnestly. "I know you must be busy, but it's just a little something to thank you for allowing the tenant extra time to pay rent. Your kindness is rare." Chief Ufomba was moved. Her humility, resilience, and genuine kindness left a deep impression on him. As he drove home, he couldn't stop thinking about the young woman who, despite her struggles, found joy in giving and serving others. "She's special," he thought to himself, a plan beginning to form in his mind. Her humility and thoughtfulness stayed with Chief. If there was anyone who could ground Uche and teach him the value of kindness, it was Mercy. When Uche received his father's summons, he was already annoyed. He had just been kicked out of a nightclub after a drunken argument turned physical. Now, sitting in the grand living room of their mansion, he glared at Chief, waiting for another lecture. But this time, Chief's words left him stunned. "I found you a wife," Chief said calmly. Uche blinked, then burst out laughing. "You've what? Papa, are you joking?" Chief leaned forward, his tone firm. "Her name is Mercy. She's kind, hardworking, and everything you're not. She will teach you what it means to be a man." Uche's laughter faded, replaced by disbelief. "You want me to marry some village girl? A homeless orphan? Are you out of your mind?" Chief's gaze didn't waver. "You have two choices. Marry Mercy and stay under my roof, or leave this house and fend for yourself without a single kobo from me." Uche stormed out, slamming the door. Later that evening, Uche met his friends at their usual hangout spot. The dimly lit lounge was filled with loud music, laughter, and the clinking of glasses. "You won't believe this," Uche said as he sank into a leather chair, swirling a glass of whiskey. "What now?" one of his friends asked, leaning forward with curiosity. Uche smirked bitterly. "My father wants me to marry a homeless orphan he found sweeping someone's compound." There was a moment of stunned silence before his friends erupted into laughter. "You're joking," one of them exclaimed, wiping tears of mirth from his eyes. "I'm serious," Uche said, his tone dripping with resentment. "He says she's supposed to teach me how to be a better man." "Better man?" another friend sneered. "What does she know about living like us? Does she even own a pair of shoes?" The group laughed again, but beneath the surface, Uche felt a flicker of discomfort. Their words echoed his own doubts, but for some reason, they stung. 2 days later, Mercy arrived at the Ufomba mansion, clutching a small bag of belongings. Her nerves were evident, but she carried herself with quiet determination. Chief welcomed her warmly and introduced her to the staff. Uche, however, was nowhere to be seen. That evening, as Mercy unpacked her things in the guest room, Uche finally returned. He barely glanced in her direction, muttering, "This is ridiculous," before heading upstairs. Mercy felt a pang of hurt but reminded herself why she was there. She had faced greater challenges in her life. Adjusting to life in the Ufomba mansion was not easy for Mercy. Uche ignored her at every turn, while the staff watched her with a mix of curiosity and pity. But Mercy refused to let the cold reception dampen her spirit. She threw herself into helping around the house, preparing meals tailored to Chief's health needs and tidying up neglected spaces. One day, she noticed the kitchen pantry was disorganized, with expired items mixed in with fresh supplies. She spent hours sorting through everything, ensuring the staff had what they needed to prepare proper meals. Chief noticed her efforts and smiled. "You're a blessing, my daughter," he said. One evening, Mercy was busy in the garden, pruning wilted flowers. The task gave her peace, but her calm was interrupted when Uche appeared, leaning lazily against the gate. Well, he drawled. The village girl turned gardener. "What's next?" "Polishing the floors." Mercy looked up calmly. "Good afternoon, Uche," she said, ignoring his tone. He chuckled mockingly. "You're really embracing your role here, aren't you? Do you think my father will give you a medal for being the housemaid of the year?" Mercy stood, brushing the dirt off her hands. "I'm just helping where I can," she said simply. "Oh, how noble," he sneered. "But don't get any ideas. You'll always be the girl my father dragged in off the streets." Mercy met his gaze with quiet determination. "And you'll always be the man who refuses to see the good in people." Her calm reply stunned Uche. Without another word, he turned and walked back inside, his smirk fading into thoughtfulness. Mercy knelt back down, whispering to herself, "I won't let his words stop me from doing my best." It was a sunny afternoon in the Ufomba mansion. Uche lounged lazily on the plush sofa in the living room, his phone in one hand and a glass of juice in the other. A smirk played on his lips as he scrolled through his social media feed. Mercy entered the room, carrying a tray of freshly prepared snacks for Chief Ufomba. She moved quietly, trying not to disturb Uche, but he noticed her and immediately seized the moment. Well, he drawled, putting down his glass. "If it isn't the housemaid turned wife. Tell me, Mercy, do you also take orders, or are you just here to serve meals and look confused?" Mercy froze for a second, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. She placed the tray on the table and straightened her back. "I'm just doing what's right for the family," she replied calmly, refusing to let his words sting too deeply. "Family?" Uche laughed, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Do you even know what that word means? You think cooking and cleaning will magically make you belong here? This isn't a charity home, Mercy." Her hands trembled slightly, but she clasped them mercifully and looked at him steadily. "I'm trying my best, Uche. I didn't come here to take anything from anyone. I'm here because your father believed I could help." Uche leaned back, chuckling mockingly. "Help? Oh, I see. You're the angel sent to save me from my wicked ways, right? Well, newsflash, I don't need saving. And I definitely don't need you." Mercy stood there, her heart pounding, but she refused to show any weakness. "You may not need me, Uche, but your father does. He's the one who matters to me." Her calm reply caught him off guard for a moment, and his smirk faltered. He quickly recovered, though, waving her off dismissively. "Whatever. Just don't start thinking you're important around here. You're just temporary." Without waiting for her response, Uche grabbed his glass and walked out, leaving Mercy standing in the room, holding back tears. She took a deep breath, determined not to let his words affect her. In her heart, she knew that actions spoke louder than words. She would show Uche, not through arguments but through resilience, which she deserved to be there, not for him, but for herself and the man who had given her a chance when she had nothing. It was a quiet evening, and Mercy was in the kitchen preparing a light dinner for the family. The house was peaceful until the sound of high heels clicking on the tiled floor echoed through the hallway. Mercy peeked out and saw Uche walking in with a glamorous woman clinging to his arm. She was dressed in a tight, sparkling gown, her makeup bold and striking. Uche's loud laughter filled the space as he guided the woman into the living room. "Mercy," he called, his tone dripping with mockery. "Come and meet my guest." Mercy walked into the living room, wiping her hands on her apron. Her calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the woman's flashy appearance. "This is Vanessa," Uche said, smirking. "A real lady, not someone dragged in from the streets." Vanessa giggled, glancing at Mercy dismissively. "Oh, is this your housemaid?" "No," Uche said, grinning cruelly. "She's my wife. My father's idea, of course." Mercy looked at Vanessa and then at Uche. "Welcome, Vanessa," she said politely. "Would you like something to drink?" The woman hesitated, confused by Mercy's calmness. "I'm fine," Vanessa replied awkwardly. Mercy turned to Uche. "Dinner will be ready soon, Uche. I'll set an extra place for your guest." Uche's smirk faltered. He had expected anger, tears, or even jealousy, but Mercy's poise unsettled him. As Mercy walked back to the kitchen, Vanessa whispered, "She's different." "Don't let her fool you," Uche muttered, but his confidence wavered. Deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that Mercy's calm strength made her far more remarkable than he wanted to admit. One night, well past midnight, Mercy sat in the living room, finishing a cup of tea after a long day of chores. Suddenly, she heard a loud noise outside, the screech of tires, followed by a slam of the front door. Startled, she rushed to the hallway. There stood Uche, barely able to walk, his shirt rumpled and his breath reeking of alcohol. "Uche, are you okay?" she asked, hurrying to his side. He waved her off clumsily, mumbling incoherently. "Leave me." "I'm fine," he slurred, but his knees buckled, and he almost fell to the floor. Mercy caught him just in time, struggling under his weight. "You're not fine," she said firmly. "Come on, let me help you." Despite his protests, she guided him to his room. Once there, she sat him down on the bed and looked at him. His face was pale, his eyes heavy. "You can't sleep like this," she said. "Wait here." She fetched a basin of warm water and a towel from the bathroom. When she returned, Uche was already leaning against the bedpost, half asleep. "I'm going to clean you up," she said softly, soaking the towel and wiping his face and arms. He didn't argue, too tired and drunk to resist. Afterward, she found a clean shirt and helped him change out of his soiled clothes. "You'll feel better in the morning," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "Why are you doing this?" Uche mumbled, his voice barely audible. Mercy paused, looking at him for a moment. "Because you're my husband," she said simply. When she finally tucked him into bed, she sighed in exhaustion. As she turned to leave, Uche murmured something she couldn't quite hear. "What did you say?" she asked, but he was already asleep. Shaking her head, Mercy left the room quietly, hoping that one day, Uche would see that she only wanted the best for him. Despite his initial disdain, Uche began to notice Mercy's quiet presence. One evening, he came home to find her helping the gardener plant flowers in his late mother's neglected garden. "What are you doing?" he asked, unable to hide his curiosity. Mercy wiped her hands on her skirt. "Your father said this was your mother's favorite place. I thought it should look beautiful again." Uche frowned but said nothing. As he walked away, he couldn't shake the image of her smiling gently as she worked. The change in Uche came unexpectedly. One evening, he overheard Mercy comforting a housemaid who had accidentally burned a dish meant for dinner. "It's okay," Mercy said softly. "We'll make something else. Everyone makes mistakes." Uche, who would have shouted in frustration, was struck by her compassion. He began to see Mercy not as an intruder in his life, but as someone who brought peace wherever she went. One night, Uche found himself in the garden, drawn by the scent of blooming flowers. To his surprise, Mercy was there, tending to the plants by moonlight. "You're always working," he said, startling her. She looked up, smiling. "It doesn't feel like work when you love what you're doing." For the first time, they talked about their lives, dreams, and fears. Uche shared stories of his mother, and Mercy spoke of the family she had lost. As weeks turned into months, Uche's behavior began to change. He spent less time with his friends and more time at home, helping Mercy with small tasks. His friends mocked him for it, but he no longer cared. One day, he surprised Mercy by joining her in the kitchen, insisting on learning how to prepare his father's favorite dish. "You're full of surprises," Mercy teased. "And you're full of patience," he replied, smiling. One evening, Uche stood in the garden, watching Mercy as she watered the plants. His heart swelled with emotions he couldn't ignore. "Mercy," he called, his voice trembling. She turned, her eyes filled with curiosity. "I was wrong about you," he admitted. "I thought this arrangement was a mistake, but it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. You've shown me what love and kindness truly mean." Tears filled Mercy's eyes as she stepped closer. "And you've shown me that people can change." Their love, born out of an unlikely arrangement, became the talk of the town. Uche, once a reckless playboy, was now a devoted husband and a man of integrity. Chief Ufomba watched them with pride, knowing his gamble had paid off. Through Mercy's kindness and resilience, Uche had found his way back to himself and to the family that had almost lost him. Thank you for watching. If this story captivated you, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Please drop a comment below and share your feedback. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video to spread the word and support our channel. Thank you once again, and see you in the next story.